Hello, hello, my friends, and welcome to the Wake Up with Giants radio show. I am Lady Luck, and I am joined in studio by Nick the Gentle Giant, by Nicole Cola the RPG, and by our special guest co-host Debbie Roth. And I'll tell you, the vibe is here. I'm so excited to have Debbie Roth here. Today's episode is about how to forgive and grow beyond your story, and I'm telling you, just the few minutes that we've had with Debbie before we even got on air, I am feeling it big time here, my friends. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Debbie. Debbie Roth is a professional forgiveness coach and works with clients around the world to make peace within themselves and create what they truly want in their lives. A cornerstone of Debbie's coaching is the powerful practice of self-forgiveness to help people slow down with their limiting stories about themselves, let go of them, and awaken to the freedom of doing this. And we'll pop a website later on in the show so that you can get connected further with Debbie if you like what you're hearing. But we invite you all to please do comment if you have any questions in the comments. And Debbie has some incredible gifts and groups and everything that she's going to be talking about today. So I'm going to move it right over to Debbie to get us started. Thank you, Debbie.
You got it. Well, to me, what the opportunity here is today is for each one of us to let go of our old stories, to take a look at what are the beliefs that you've held that are stopping you from seeing the majesty of who you are, and B, living into what your heart's vision is for yourself. So what my encouragement is that if you have any distractions going on, if you have a phone, if you have something nearby that's taking your attention, to let all of that go, and for you, for the gift of yourself, to be fully present here. Because my commitment to you is twofold. The first is that you have an experience of forgiveness, because it's that experience that's going to guide you in momentum as you continue to practice throughout 2022. And my commitment also, my intention is to give you some practical tools that you can use in the days ahead. And Natalie, I see you. And if you have a question about forgiveness specifically, please post it in the comments. And really, that goes for all of you, that I'm here for you. So if there are specific things you'd like us to address today, questions you have, situations where you feel stuck, an old story that you don't know how to let go, comment away. Comment away. So I'm going to turn it back to you guys, that if there are, questions that you want to ask me, Nick.
I do. I'm going to dive right into it because one of the things that comes up is when we get into our story and our beliefs, oftentimes they're unconscious, especially if they go back to childhood and go back to development, and some of it we bury or we don't know how to pull it up because we don't even know where it is. And so I would have a question. My question would be around, how do you bring to the surface so that you can heal it any old things that you might not even be conscious of?
Absolutely. And what a great question. And Nick, you might not be surprised by my initial answer. I got a few answers here.
Yeah, I love it.
And the
Yep.
first one, which I have said to you many times in our work together, is to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Is to really, I mean, how many of us are rushing through the day, or get unconscious, or somehow you're not really paying attention to what's going on inside and how you're reacting to situations.
Right.
Because if you really pay attention to what are my and get curious, right? Like, what are my reactions here? What are my choices? Is this coming from the truth inside of me or something lesser than that? And if it is coming from something lesser than that, what's going on? What's going on? Are there any judgments that I have? because underneath the judgments usually are those old beliefs. So the first thing I would say is to slow down. The second thing that I would say is particularly to be what I call a forgiveness scientist with the things that upset you. So anytime that you are out of your peace, where you feel stuck, where you are in judgment in some way, where you're angry, whatever it is, that those are usually indicators that underneath the upset that you're experiencing, there's an old belief or story that's running you, because otherwise you wouldn't have the upset that you did, because your upset's yours. Like, you are not at the effect of what happens outside. So as you take a look at those, and that's really this whole practice of self-forgiveness is about this, is taking a look at what are the areas where I experience upset. Let's slow down with what the feelings are, with what the judgments are, with what the beliefs are underneath that are limiting you, and let them go through the power of self-forgiveness. Is that helpful?
Yeah. Yeah. So immediately this brought me back to our training that we did together.
Yeah.
This is going back 2 years now, right? 2 or 3 years when we met.
It's just been about 2 years.
Yeah. And you told me then slow down, and I did like 1%. So I'm doing really, really well around that.
Well, what's
But
really,
yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. It just really brought me back into that. It's like, I am go, go, go when I'm go, go, go.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that's very helpful.
Well, Nick, there's another, and everybody, there's another piece of that. And Nick, you may or may not remember what that is. It's slow down. And an initial step is to practice acceptance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is to say that whatever is going on, that I'm willing to accept it. In fact, when I work with people individually and in groups, such as the one that Nick did, he did a group with me. Acceptance is one of the very first skills of forgiveness that I work with people on. Exactly, to accept what is, because when you're accepting what's going on, the door opens. It really does. You start to see things that you may not have realized before. Those unconscious beliefs have more of an opportunity to make themselves known to you, because you're not struggling with what's so in your life. You're not turning your head away from it and pretending like it's not happening.
Right.
I actually have a story about that. So
Yeah.
I have, Nicole was touched. You were touched by that, weren't you? What just happened inside of you?
No, it was Natalie's comment. And today, I've worked with Ryan on this too, is usually when you're in those feelings, it's listening to little Ryan or little Nicole and asking what is going on, like what is coming up, and listening to her when she tells me like how she's feeling, so she can be heard. And usually it's a way to keep yourself safe. It worked for you when you were a child, but it doesn't work for you anymore. And that's okay. We upgrade, and we can, I've judged myself as a little girl. There was violence in my house, and I judged myself for running, which is a human fight or flight. And I would judge myself because I ran and I didn't try to stay and fight and defend myself against a grown adult man. And so you can't believe like that little girl being able to say, it's okay that you ran. That's normal. Fight or flight. It's normal and it's okay. You don't need to judge yourself anymore. You did the best you could in that situation.
For sure. And just being here in this group right now is there, because when two or more are gathered with an intention to forgive, it's a powerful energy. It's a powerful energy. And what I wonder is, Nicole, in this space, is there something that you haven't accepted up until now? Doesn't mean you have to like it or condone it. You just accept that it occurred. Is there something that you want to accept right here and now?
Oh my gosh, do I want to do this?
Yes.
I'm holding on to this judgment so hard.
And see, the willingness to do gives the ability to do. So you're asking a great question of yourself. Like, am I willing? And yes, maybe you are, and no, maybe you're not. And both of those responses are okay. And I say this for you and for all of us, because it can be so easy to try to push your process, where you say, oh, I should let this go. And you might not be there right now. So just to be with yourself and to listen to the feelings that are coming up, the thoughts that are coming up, to give yourself compassion and just keep practicing those micro steps. Because my guess is, Nick, is that 1% that you slowed down in that group still assisted you tremendously. Am I right about that?
Huge, huge. I will show something, and you can explain this at some point or not. That's from our course, and everything that you see in front of you is from that course. The League of Giants came from that course. The Tribe of Giants was added from that. The successful, amicable divorce came from that. Like, there were all these things going on in my world, and so being able to even take micro steps made a huge impact in my life. Even if I'm joking when I say 1%, I slowed down a lot more than that. But even that small degree made a huge impact. And so it's surprising. You really don't need as much as you think.
You really don't. And it's such a good point. It's such a good point. And the other thing that's, well, let me tell you a little story about a client that I sat with yesterday. And she really wants to work on her health. She's been trying to lose weight for, gosh, years and years, about 40 pounds. And here's what I had her do. I had her write down all of the things that she was upset by about this situation. And I said to her, even if you think you're done writing down what your upsets are, go further. And because we did that, I'm like, look at what's underneath. That even just in that 3 minutes of writing, she wrote down, I'm not worth it. And she never knew that. And she never knew that. That's a belief. That's the perceptual filter through which she saw her life. No wonder she hasn't lost weight. And just a little tip, by the way, if any of you are wanting to release weight or something like that, rather than say lose weight, because there's a part of you that's like, I don't want to lose something. If you say release, it gets exciting. It makes it an adventure. So Hafiz is one of my favorite poets. He's a mystical poet, and he said that the words you speak become the house that you live in. So to be really careful about the word choices that you have. And what got her to that point, because we couldn't start out with looking at her upsets, like she was having trouble just slowing down and accepting what was going on. And one of the things that really helped was to be honest about that. Like, she was telling me about her weight, and also about how for years that, and some of you may relate to this, it was like she knew this was something that she should do. And yet it was like she could never quite get traction, right? Like get headway on it. And I had this sense that as she was talking to me, that it was like a part of her was running away, like that she couldn't face it. And I just said to her, I'm like, what is it like for you to talk about this? And she said, it's really hard. And I said, is a part of you like gone somewhere? And she said, yeah. And then then she's like, wow, it feels so good just to be real. So like, as you're looking at your issue, how you relate to it is just as important. And when you get real with all of that and bring that to the table, that it can give you the very keys that you need to practice forgiveness, to practice letting go. And the fact that she was then able to say, wow, I haven't wanted to look at this. Not really. And even though I thought that I did, I don't want to look at my feelings. I'm not comfortable with them. That allowed her to then dive into her upsets and get to this root belief. It just popped.
That's incredible. Right? Sorry, I was just gonna say, something that Nick said about the slowing down and about the creation in the slowdown spoke to me, because I've never I've always said that, and I've always heard that about slowing down to find that creative space. But I've always been the one that says I'm the procrastinator, and like I'll wait right till the last minute until I absolutely have to create it in order to create it, and I'll create it under pressure, and I'll create it well. But I was in a call today, and we were actually talking about happiness, and we were talking about, where I find happiness, and why I wasn't doing the things that make me happy right now, and how that was happening. And I made the statement that I find that I will go out and be happy and do happy things with a partner that I might be dating. And that I find that I'm more creative in those times when I'm actually dating someone and in a relationship with someone. I find that creativity there. And so I initially judged that to mean that I have to be in a relationship with someone to be that creative. And it came to me in silence, in stepping back and in silence, and in that conversation, that the creativity that I have had in each of those instances was because during those times I actually was doing more self-care. I actually wasn't diving into work like I normally dive in. I actually, a few weeks ago, just made the decision, okay, I'm going to make time for a bath for myself at least once a week. I'm going to sit down and make time to read a book. And I started putting those boundaries into place and saying to people, okay, I'm going to let you go now because this is my reading time. I'm going to sit and have some quiet reading time. And I was making that time for myself, but I was seeing that as me being creative because I was also talking with someone and laughing and enjoying that person's company. But it had nothing to do with that person's company. It had everything to do with the self-care and the step back and the slowdown that I had taken for myself. It was a huge realization for me today.
What was the biggest part of that realization for you, Melissa?
Oh, that I can have that creativity on my own, that I don't have to rely on someone else to have that fun and to have that self-care and to find that creative space.
That's right. And really, your primary relationship is with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it was huge.
I would wonder if sometimes people get hung up on the idea and the story that they need permission to have that self-care. Right. Yeah. Richard Paul Evans has the 5 rings, the 5 circles that he teaches about. And at the center is always you and source. Right. Yeah. And then second is family. And then third is associates. And then fourth is maybe work and something a little further out. And then fifth is the world and how you interact with the world. But always at the center is you. And if you're not taking care of you and other people are coming into your center, then there's no way you can show up as powerfully because you're allowing them to be that space that should be yours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, Nick. And one thing I would say about that is the practice of self-forgiveness is one of, from my point of view, the fundamental tools that you can use for your own self-care. And what I mean by that, because it's very different than the usual way of looking at forgiveness. And the reason that it is that rather than necessarily forgiving someone else or even forgiving yourself, while that's great, it's like somewhere in there, you're still holding on to a belief that something or someone is good or bad or right or wrong. And that there's an opportunity to lift beyond that and say, what if, even if I don't have like the eyes to see right now, what if everything that occurred was an opportunity to awaken into greater loving, into greater truth, and that everything that's being brought to you is on purpose. And when you can look from that place, then the greater forgiveness is what I call self-forgiveness. And I learned this as a student in the University of Santa Monica, where I have a master's in spiritual psychology. And it's forgiving yourself for placing a judgment, for separating yourself from your own heart. And one thing I want to say about that, I'm going to pause because that's actually a big one, right? And there's one thing I want to say now, though, and that it doesn't mean that you don't take care of yourself. It doesn't mean that you, I love that each time we forgive ourselves or someone else, a miracle has occurred. It's totally true. And I would add to that and extend that, Steve, to say, really, that it's any time that you forgive yourself for placing a judgment that you think something needs to be different than the way that it is. That is the greatest forgiveness that you can do. And that in so doing that's the key to awaken beyond your story, that it can help you see through new eyes. I can share a story about that if that's helpful.
I think it would be.
Okay, yeah. It's my own. And so firstly, I want to say to you that last week my father died. A couple, I know Nick and Melissa, you know that.
Yeah.
I almost canceled today. And the reason that I didn't is because something said to me that my father and our relationship and where I am right now, it's going to be of service to people. And in fact, our relationship is a demonstration, a living demonstration of what happens to forgive, like what happens when you forgive and let go, and how to move beyond your story. And I spent so many years wanting my father's love. And thank you so much, Natalie. I spent so many years just saying, well, if my dad only loved me, then I would be okay. And I ran this story of blame, that he didn't care about me the way I wanted, that must mean that there's something wrong with me. I had an eating disorder for many years, alcohol abuse. So, I mean, there's a number of different things, and everything shifted for me when I started practicing self-forgiveness and really slowing down with, what exactly am I upset about? What are the judgments that I can identify? How am I seeing my dad is wrong and me is right here? Or how really ultimately am I seeing myself as wrong because I think I'm not lovable? I mean, that was really my key belief underneath the upset. It's like there's the upset, then there's the judgment underneath that. What are you making right or wrong? And then when I forgave that, it was like I got to this underlying hurt, this belief that that I wasn't lovable. And I'll tell you, when he died, I started restricting food again. This is now, I'm 51. I'm a forgiveness coach. And I've had to slow down and take it to a whole nother level for myself. Because one of the things I realized is that when I thought I lost his love, like when I was a kid, that's when I thought I wasn't lovable. And I feel like I lost his love again because he's gone. So it's triggering all of these old eating things. So it's like that vigilance and saying, like, what's going on here? Like, let me be with myself. Let me be with that adult Debbie and that little girl who was so scared to be hurt that I would do anything, including harm myself and put distance between myself and my father. And it all started with saying the words, I forgive myself for judging, whatever it is. And I'll tell you something, I see those areas are our greatest opportunities for growth is so true, because my relationship with my father was a key springboard for me to recognize that the only love that I needed truly was inside, that was my rock. Right, Melissa?
Mhm.
Self-care. And so to walk in this world like with the recognition that I am love and that I'm greater than anything that happens, it changes the course of your life. And that woman who's looking to release weight is now on that journey, because she said, I'm willing to take a look at my feelings. I'm willing to look at, when did I buy into the belief that I'm not worthy? To spend time with that younger part that bought into that belief. And as the adult, to take contrary action and to say, if I were living into this new story, if I'm living into I am love, what would I do? And right now for me, it's as simple as I'm eating 3 nourishing meals a day. It gets to that level of like, okay, like the words got to match the action here. So I don't know if that's helpful or not. I hope it is for someone. And I'm sorry, because I've been so talking that I'm not reading the comments.
There's so much going on. Like I'm trying to
Yeah.
manage that so you guys don't have to worry about it. There's a lot going on, and it's remembering, it's creating a remembering inside of me of a lot that I learned in your courses that I had forgotten, like starting with the upset, looking at the upset first, and then creating space for that upset. So acceptance. And I'll throw something in, John Paul. Oh, geez. JP Morgan. I'll say it that way. JP Morgan shared that within acceptance, there's 2 parts, allowance and accommodation, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's things that are there temporarily and things that are there permanently.
Yeah.
And then from that acceptance, looking at the judgments that are there and
That's
accepting
right.
those judgments, and then forgiving yourself for the judgments that you have. So it's really never about anybody outside of you.
That's
so anybody
right.
could do anything outside of you. It's the story that you tell around what happens outside of you.
That's right.
The event is neutral, but then the judgments come in and say it's not neutral, it's right or wrong, it's bad or good, it's this or that. And then forgiving yourself for those is what you're doing. You're just forgiving yourself for those judgments is all. I forgive myself for judging myself as this, or I forgive myself for judging myself as something else. And so it's reminding me and creating a memory of the things that I learned with you that maybe I've been out of practice in.
And what you're bringing up is such a good point, because it takes practice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like those, really carving out space. That's right, Natalie, remembering who we be. And I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. If I don't, please remind me. Okay?
Yeah.
It's important. So a key to this is it's great to talk about this, right? It's like, okay, like, let's talk about the value of forgiveness. And then it's like, what do you walk away with? It's like, what if you carved out space on your calendar for acceptance moments? To just pause, set a timer on your Apple Watch or on your phone, or put a sticky on your computer and say, okay, these 5 minutes, I'm taking the time not to scroll through Facebook, although of course Wake Up with Giants is a great thing to scroll to. It's like, I'm going to scroll to me. How am I doing right now? Is there any place that I'm out of balance? What's going on here? What feelings and thoughts do I have? And can I just bring acceptance to that? And that can be as simple as, I accept that I have these thoughts and feelings. I accept that this situation is occurring. I accept that I don't want to accept this, right? Being real with where you are. And that's just one example. Another thing that you could do is something I call a forgiveness journal. And that would be an opportunity to do what Nick was talking about, is you can take a specific situation where you're like, I was upset. Write down what your upsets were. Then write down what are the judgments that you have. And the way you know you're judging is it's like any time that you're upset, you're judging. So it's like, what are you making right? What are you making wrong? What are you making good? What are you making bad? And you just write them down. And then here's the key, and this is what gets back to the being. So when you move into forgiveness, it's less about how to forgive and much more about listening to your heart, because your heart already knows the way. And that
I absolutely love that.
it drops you from the mentalizing to the experience. And so the words that you could use, and you could just breathe and say, and you guys can repeat after me if you want to, with any judgment that's present. So right now, if there's a judgment that you're aware of, without going through like the whole process, if there's something that you know you judge, I think all of us have at least one thing, right? You can say, I forgive. Like, Nicole, what is your judgment?
I don't know if I want to share my judgment.
It's just sharing of it is so valuable, because there's no shame. And when you say, I can't share it, although I appreciate that, it's like you're adding to it. You're adding to it. And I'll tell you, like, one thing that I judge is when someone speaks harshly to me. It's really hard for me. And that just happened today. And then I want to get into the rightness, like I'm right about it. And then I don't want to let it go. And the way that I let it go today is I just said, I'm sorry to that person. Even though, was I right? Maybe. Does it matter? It's like, would you rather be right or would you rather be loving?
I love that.
Yeah.
So to start with, I forgive myself for judging. Now, if it's yourself, I forgive myself for judging myself as. So I'll say mine, I forgive myself for judging myself as right, because I'm not the one who spoke harsh words. I forgive myself for judging myself as unlovable. I forgive myself for judging, and I'll say this for myself. I noticed some of the comments. I forgive myself for judging my father for not treating me the way I wanted him to. I forgive myself for judging myself as weak for looking for him for loving. So for each of you, it's like, look at what is the judgment that you're allowing to control you and to define your story. I would encourage each of you, if you have a pen and paper, write it down. Don't push it away. And just say, you are my greatest teacher. And when you're ready to forgive. Sorry, I know. Should we keep going, or is it time for a break?
It's up to you guys. I feel like we can make it work either way, and I love where we're at. And I'd almost hate to interrupt
the energy. I agree.
Yeah. Is that okay if we continue just through?
Yeah.
On
Yeah,
this
I think we
episode?
should. And I was gonna say, I can tell you right now what mine is, because Debbie and I talked about it a few weeks ago before the show. And I'll say, I forgive myself for judging myself as an introvert. And
can I pause you for a minute there, Melissa?
Yep.
So one of the things that, firstly, you are so courageous in just sharing what you're sharing. And I want each of you to know, wherever you are with that, like, your willingness to share is okay. And to like let yourself just be where you are and notice if you have shame, and to work with that, right? Like, no judgment zone, baby. No judgment zone. To say, wow, I feel shame. I'm going to love that part of me. And so any part of you, Melissa, that has shame around the actions that you take as the introvert, it's like, give those loving right now. Like, that can be a part of your forgiveness. So it's like, what part of the introvert is the part that you really judge, that you're really like, wow, like, that is just so shameful or wrong?
The part that uses that as a label so that I don't have to put myself out there, and I don't want to put myself out there because of fear of not being approved of.
Yeah, see that?
Right?
Now, do you see, just asking that question, how it starts to get at what's underneath?
Yeah.
Your heart just opened a little, didn't it? And the way that I know it opened is that you softened. And see, so it's like, you want to, so the word is, it's like, really unpack what the judgment is. Because sometimes when you have the label, right, of the introvert, it's like you're almost keeping yourself from what's really upsetting you.
Yeah.
And that's where the gem is.
Yeah. And I had a call with Alex today, and really, we really, got through some of the weeds, and the judgment is of others for hurting me when I let them in. So I became the introvert so that no one would hurt me again.
That's right. Now see, now you're on it. And from this place, see, and I wouldn't even suggest going into forgiveness from where you are now, but rather being with that. Because that's honest, isn't it?
Yeah.
And see, it's like there's all the time in the world to get to, wow, well, what am I judging about that? Like, what am I making right or wrong? It's almost like you opened a space to allow the feelings to surface. And that means there's some trust going on in there. So it's like one step at a time. That's how to forgive and grow beyond your story, Melissa. It's not the how to, step 1, 2, and 3. It's what you just did. What you just had the strength of heart to do, not just for you, but my guess is for a lot of us who are listening right now. What is the next step that you could take to really be with yourself?
I don't know. I don't know what the next step is.
Can I give you a hint? Can I give you a hint?
Yeah.
Your heart already knows. The part of you that feels betrayed. What does that part need from you?
Forgiveness and acceptance.
I would start with acceptance. You can say, I accept that you're here. I accept that there are things that I want to do that I feel like you're holding me back from. I accept that you feel hurt. You, that's beautiful. Think with your heart. See, Melissa, you have a greater opportunity to think with your heart. to see through the eyes of loving. I'll give you one other tool that you could use, and we've already spoken about this, and this will be for everybody, and Melissa, for you specifically. I would actually challenge all of you to do that. Okay, I will take it on too. And that is like, what if you did a 7-day forgiveness journal? And it could be 5 minutes a day where you just slow down with that part of you that feels hurt, or that someone betrayed you, or didn't love you the way you wanted, or whatever it was. And you just write and you say, I'm here for you. You do it for 5 minutes a day for 7 days. It's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It's powerful. Would you be willing to do that, Melissa?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I
Would
will.
you be willing to email either me or Alex afterwards and let us know where you are and what insights you got?
I will email you both with the insights.
That's awesome. Alex and I are a good tag team.
Thank you.
You got it. And see, one of the keys is being willing to go where the discomfort is, being willing to be honest. Excellent, Natalie. You can email me also. So if we can put that, my email in the, it's info@forgivingconnects.com.
Ready.
Okay.
Okay.
So Natalie, email me how it goes. And see, you could use this 7-day challenge. It's like a 7-day forgiveness challenge in a way. You can have the focus that you want. It's like the reason that for Melissa, and I'll take this on too, is, I said, to just slow down with that part that's upset. It's like, because you notice the tears. It's like there's some part of you that's not slowing down and being with yourself. And you were smart enough to say, hey, I need forgiveness and acceptance. Well, it starts with really listening to yourself. How can you forgive when you're unconscious or denying? It is so, it's like really honoring the dignity of your process. But see, you could do it with anything. So say if you tend to run a story, if any of you out there, Lord knows I have done this, run a story that someone else is at fault for your happiness, for your unhappiness. So if that's you, what if you just did 7 days of writing down, I am upset because ... and then going through them and saying, this upset is inside of me. It's not because of someone or something else. That's taking ownership. That's another exercise you could do.
That's what this girl needs.
I hear that.
I'm with that one.
Nicole, I'll tell you something. I'll tell you another story about my dad. My dad's really present. God bless it. God bless him. So Dad, you're helping us out with forgiveness here today. So I used to run such a story that my dad was to blame for my unhappiness because he didn't love me the way I wanted. And I had all of the evidence. Like I could bring out a journal. I could show, right? Like how many relate? How many relate?
Absolutely.
There you go.
I literally have it right
here. So, Hugh, I will answer your questions. Let me finish this statement here. So, Nicole, here is the key, and everybody, and Nick, I have a feeling you'll relate to this too. It's like when you recognize that the person out there is not the cause of what your feelings are, that is your day for liberation. It's not to excuse what they did. It's just to take dominion inside that you have a different choice. And you also have a choice of how do you see them. and how do you see yourself? So I was in the University of Santa Monica in a master's in spiritual psychology. And I was talking about my father. I'll tell you, Heather, I will absolutely answer that question. So I was talking about my father for the bajillionth time. And I thought that I needed, each time I had a thought about him, that I needed to bring it up, even though I'd already done forgiveness work. And one of the key faculty, Ron, said to me, at some point, you need to make a choice to let it go. To really drop that hot stone because it is not serving you. It's like, you've heard that. I think it's Buddha that said, it's like judgment is like a hot stone you want to throw at someone else, and you are the one who gets burned. And Heather, it is the absolute way to set boundaries, because see, when you're able to forgive what judgments you have, it clears your vision so that you can see through neutral eyes, so you can see with more clarity, how do you want to show up in a situation? Because if I'm allowing myself to be run by, I'm not lovable, my dad's at fault here, I'm not going to be able to respond in a clear way to truly take care of myself, because I'm going to be controlled by the judgments that I'm holding. When I'm able to move into my heart, that place of non-attachment, that place that only knows love, and I say, I forgive myself for judging my father as causing my unhappiness, it's like something lifts, it moves from concept to experience. And Melissa had a taste of that when she really started crying. And see, what I would offer to you, Nicole, is that you holding on to that journal is blocking you from the greater experience that's available to you with forgiveness. And when you let go, then you can see and say, what's the best way to care for myself here? Because I'll tell you, with my father, there are things that he did that were not okay with, that weren't okay, like that it didn't take care of me to be around him when he did those things. It's just that I took care of myself in a way where I didn't have upset toward him about it, because I had let the judgment go. And in that is freedom and liberation. And then it opens space for choices that you may not have even been aware of before. So I'm throwing a lot at you. I hope, is this helpful?
So helpful.
It's terrible. It's the worst thing ever. No, it's amazing.
So Nicole, I encourage you to do that 7-day of writing down what, just even starting with, I am upset because,
It's
writing
more than 5 minutes, and probably
well, in some ways, I would just limit yourself, and I would say, I'm just going to write down 5, because maybe a part of the story is just to keep cycling them. That's what a lot of my bulimia was, is just cycling something that really did not need recycling.
Can I bring something in? So something was brought up in that, and what you shared, and I want to share what came up in me around that, is that I know my responsibility for my peace. It's all within here. So any judgments I have, they're all happening right here. Anything I think is going on out there is a projection of what I think is going on in here. So I judge people based on what I think is going on out there. And often I can keep my peace pretty well, pretty solid, and I stay pretty steady. And then I'll have interactions. I'll have people that I work with or whatever. They'll come in and they'll want me to take on their piece. Like they want me to be responsible for their piece. And I've learned that I can't. That's an inside job. And so how would you suggest, like, this is great what you've been doing here, is how do people open up to understanding or knowing that they're responsible for that? That's theirs, just like it's mine. Does that make sense?
Could you give me a specific example?
Oh boy, I don't know. I have people that I work with. I don't have a specific example. No.
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
What makes you ask that question?
I feel like I often, with my ability to be an empathic with people, to hold space with people, I've had people come into my space where they feel like they can put that over here.
So slow that down. What does that
Yeah.
mean?
That their troubles, they can come in. I've had people come into my office and they'll come in and they'll just dump.
Hmm.
And they'll dump and they'll think, just take this from me. And then they'll walk out the door like just clean, like they feel great, but they just left all this stuff there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I used to have guys at work that would come in and they would just dump their stuff and then they'd go out. And I became a dumping station for things.
So really, Nick, you allowed it.
I did allow it.
So one of the great things you could ask yourself is like,
Yeah.
how did I create, promote, or allow this?
There we go.
That just moved something in you, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I
Me too.
wonder, I wonder that you may have some underlying expectation. And expectation is just a judgment, really. It's like an expectation of how you need to be.
Right. Yeah, like I need to show up a certain way for people so that I can be accepted or approved of, or things like that. If I don't do this, then I'll be judged as unacceptable. And I want to be acceptable.
And who's really judging themselves as unacceptable?
That's me right here.
See, you guys are seeing forgiveness work in action.
Yeah.
So it comes down, it's Nick, how many times we talked about it, right? It comes down to really, and see, what did you see what I did with Nick is I started asking, it's like, what made you ask that question? And then it started to unpack what was the issue really going on inside.
And truthfully, right there, my tendency is to keep putting it out there so I don't have to look at it.
And what's that about?
Damn it, Debbie.
I know.
Yeah, no.
I just pinpointed for you, don't I?
You do. It is still about acceptance. It's still about wanting to be accepted. Underneath it, that's what's coming up for me inside of that question, is that I want to be accepted inside of any relationship, right?
And Nick, how do you relate to the fact that that's the experience that you're having?
So the relating that I have with that experience is there's a rejection of that. That's not okay. There's a judgment of it.
Bingo.
Right? Yeah.
And see, that's just as important as the fact that you have that running. So I forgive myself for judging that it's not okay, that I want to feel accepted. Or I forgive myself for judging myself for wanting to feel accepted still.
Yeah.
You want to try that on for size?
I would love to. Yeah. I forgive myself.
Before you do, pause and slow down. What is a way that you could center in your heart right now?
Right now is to let these comments be, because there's so many of them. I feel like a one-man band over there trying to.
So let that
would be one thing. I'm just going to put that on hold for a minute.
See, and you see, that was important. That's a key to say, what can I do to center in my heart for Nick? And my guess is this is not the only time this goes on for you in your life. A way to center in my heart is to let the distractions and the busyness go so I can be present to my forgiveness.
That hit, because that's been coming up a lot today.
I bet.
Yeah.
So go ahead with forgiveness.
I forgive myself for judging myself as unacceptable.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to use you. Now breathe. And really let that in. What do you notice?
Oh, I just had a release through my back. So, yeah.
You know, it's interesting. Louise Hay has a great thing about back pain. And it's get off my back. So a way to begin then living into a new story. So an old story is I'm unacceptable. Nick, I'm going to use you as an example. A new story, what would a new story be for you? Don't think about it. Just like, what would a new story be?
I'm a badass.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
Exactly. And so the kinds of things you might do is ask yourself, if I were living into my badass story, what choices would I be making?
What would be my way of being would shift. My way of showing up inside of all this would shift. I would show up in confidence. I would be confidence. I would be peace. I would be that's what would show up.
And what are some of the actions that you might take from that place in your day-to-day living?
I would, well, first feel some things. I would feel that confidence run through me. So I'd have this rush of like dopamine and just feeling good. And then from there, I would take actions of going out and acting and interacting with people and making their day brighter. I just got back from Puerto Vallarta and I got to do that. And so I'd do more of that in my life, just show up fully.
And it's amazing that when you forgive judgments and you identifying the underlying story, that it allows you to show up to do more of what's truly in your heart.
Mm.
And I'm going to add something, Nick, because a part of what you would do is you would set appropriate boundaries because you would know inside that you were fully accepted
Mm.
in you. You
Yeah.
would work with your feelings as they came up because you would know that who you are in that confidence is much more than any feeling that goes through you, any thought that you have. So you see, you start to bring some realness in there.
Mm. Yeah.
And a key there, so what I'm doing here is there's a worksheet I have, which is a really great worksheet. And here it is. It's like living into your new story. So it's like if you have a new story that you want to live into. So for Nick, it's I'm a badass, right? For each of you, it might be something else. For Melissa, for you, it may have to do with being compassionate with yourself, living from that place of compassion. For you, Nicole, it may have to do with standing up in the power of who you are and being that. And see, as you live into that, there are questions that you can ask yourself. Like, if I were living into this new story, what choices would I make? What actions would I take? Is there a quality, a superpower that would assist me in living into this new story? And that could be a great journal exercise where you slow down, like you have calendar time for how's it going with my story. And it makes sense that you might slip back into an old story, right? Like Nick's story of unacceptable. So you can ask questions like, am I acting from neutrality or am I acting from a place of upset? Is this choice coming from the wisdom in me or from that part that thinks I'm unacceptable? And see, the key is when, so these are questions that you can ask. So I have a worksheet essentially with these questions that I thought that it was for a group that I'm offering called Co-Creating Your Exquisite Life. There are 6 lovely ladies in this group currently, and they're doing courageous work around living into their new story, each of them, and into their exquisite life, like what moves their soul. And so I created this worksheet to help them of like, what are ways that you can live into your story very specifically? How do you know when you're in your old story? Jen Walter is in the group. She just outed herself. What are ways that, and I'm just going to read you a quick question because what I want to do is make that handout available for anyone on this call. So here are some questions to help you tell that you're in your old story. Is my response neutral or am I upset about something? And what is it? Where are my choices coming from? The wisdom inside or a limiting belief that I've held up till now? Am I holding myself back from taking action on something that's important to me? And where is this coming from? And see, taking the pause to simply notice how you're living your life, asking yourself these kinds of questions, and then bringing your attention to say, I'm taking dominion and I'm participating in my life from this awesome new belief, that's a game changer. It's a true game changer. So if you want this handout to help you with your next steps, you can email me at info@forgivingconnects.com. And it's a great exercise to help you. Now it doesn't, and there's one other thing I would say. It's like, this is not on the work, it's a little bit on the worksheet actually. It's like, if you're wanting to live into this new story and you find yourself in your old story, it's like, that's a time for forgiveness. To say, oh, here I am, like living into my old story, right? Here I am living into this old story. So to accept what's going on, to take ownership for that, to look at the I am upset becauses and identifying the judgments that you have, if any, and then to forgive and move on and to say next.
Debbie, I know we could go for hours on this without missing a beat, and it would be powerful. And I think we want to have a continuation at some point. We're sort of toward the end here, but is there anything else you'd want to share? Yeah.
One other thing, and we started to touch on this at the beginning, and this would be a whole other show. And that is really slowing down with that part of you that bought into the story. To give that part of you loving attention and a listening ear, and to say, I see you. To let that part express objections, like you could talk to that part and say, hey, there's this new belief I want to live into. What do you think? That is a hero's journey. And honestly, that's a lot of the work that I do with people, both on the conscious level of what are actions, specific actions you can take to create more of what you want, and slowing down with what's going on underneath, because it's the greatest way I know to true transformation and really transcendence, to get beyond your story into living love. And there's no better way to live from my experience of it. And I just want to say, I have so much love for each of you in my heart. Thank you for the invitation to come on this show and to spend time and slow down on such a topic of grace to begin 2022. What we're doing here is affecting the planet just because we came together with this light field of self-forgiveness. We really are all giants. So I know that we need to stop. So I would just recap again that if you want that worksheet, please email me.
I want to give a quick tribute, and I know we're at time here, but I've worked with you multiple times. I went through your course back in 2019. We've had one-on-one sessions. You never let people off the hook. Like, that's what I love the most about you. And I have a handful of people that I just hold so dear to my heart.
So what's amazing, Nick, I so appreciate that. And I love you too. What's amazing is the fact that you could see me that way means that a part of you sees yourself that way. So just turn the mirror. And see, my encouragement is to not let yourself off the hook, everyone. Step by step, moment by moment. Nick is a testament to that, because Nick would not allow himself to get off the hook. And that you rose to the challenge, Nick. That's what created all of this. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, I have it here. This is that sheet that we created in 2019. That's it. I haven't let it go. It's in front of me every day.
That sheet is a demonstration of your courage and strength of heart. Thank you for who you are.
Thank you.
I don't think we've had anybody on the radio show that's been so impactful in slowing us all down and allowing us to see inside of ourselves. And I literally just looked up and saw that this is episode 48. And in 48 episodes, I'm serious when I say that this is probably the one that's impacted me the most. So thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome. And really, when you slow down, it's like it gives you the experience of the concept. And when you have the experience, that's where the healing occurs. And expansion happens. And thank you, Melissa. You are so courageous in your sharing. And Nicole, what I love about you is that you are planting seeds right now for your exploration. I see him occurring. And just starting out on that journey takes a great willingness to honor yourself. And I see that in each one of you. So what else do we need to wrap up here?
I think we're there, Melissa.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering if you can tell our audience about your group that you're offering as well. I don't want to overlook that. Yeah.
Oh, that's why I forgot. And oh my gosh, we're so at time. So very briefly, I am offering a group starting in March. It's a 3-month group, limited to 14 people. And I do see that possibly there being a waiting list, and it's called The Power and Grace of Self-Forgiveness. And really what we'll do is slow down with these skills to forgive so that you can handle a fundamental story or pattern that's holding you back in your life and get free to create more of what you truly want. So what you got a taste of today with the acceptance and the taking ownership and the I am upset becauses and the opening your heart and the I forgive myself for judging, this will be a deeper dive into that and a pretty incredible container.
That's awesome. So where can people get more information about that course?
Well, what I would suggest is just email me. Even if you're curious about it, if you're like, you know what, something opened for me today, whether or not you're interested in the course, it's like something opened and I want to know more. It's like that, we'll see where that goes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
I just want to shout out real quick, Mr. Ryan Morris in the background here. People can't see him, but when we were having that conversation, he jumped in. So I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to each of you. So thank you for being on here. So there he is. What's up, brother?
Just being technical support tonight in the background.
Love it. Cool.
Another incredible time.
Yeah.
I'm going to end with one quote. And it's a quote from my own, I have a mentor, John John Morton, actually. And John Morton says, you're in your laters now. So it's like, oh, I'll do that later. It's like be with it now, because this is your opportunity. That's where the magic happens. It's like, don't let yourself off the hook. I mean, with so much loving. Because the gifts that await you, as Steve Hardison would say, are miraculous and a blessing. Okay, I'm going to stop.
I love it. Thank you.
I love this community. I
do too. For some reason, it's pretty rad.
It's a family.
It is a family. It is a family. And I'm so grateful to you for serving this community. And what I love about our community is that the people that come into it, they really do honor that and serve the community as well. I mean, it's pretty rare that we get somebody that tries to take advantage. And for the most part, it's just beautiful to see people come together and support each other, you know?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And if for those of you who are watching now and also watching the recording, my encouragement is, because we really went for it. So we covered a lot that I would spend like sessions like really diving into. So my encouragement is to listen to, like, unpack this video. It's like, listen to even small parts of it and then practice it in your life, and then listen to a little bit more and then practice it, because we could unpack like at least 5 or 6 of the concepts and go deeper.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
And we'll probably do that in other episodes where we dive in and go deep on a leg, you know, and
yeah.
This is beautiful. Nicole, do you have any other final thoughts?
I just have been touched so deeply by this whole episode and can relate so much to Debbie and things that she experiences. I just feel like I found my soul family. But like, I've watched stuff before, but I'm just really grateful to be here, experience with you guys.
And to me, what that is touching into the loving of your own heart. And so it's really an opportunity to listen to that, Nicole, and let it guide you to your next steps in your own forgiveness adventure. We've got a master's heart, so much strength.
Well, guys, we at some point we got to
know.
wrap this up.
I was just thinking that.
Like, I don't even know how to do it now.
I was literally just thinking that in my head. I was sitting here going, okay, I don't know how to end this because I don't want to leave.
Well,
nobody wants to leave.
Yeah, I don't want to end
stay
the
with us forever, Debbie.
Let's go ahead and stay in an after show for a minute, and we'll create that as the end there. So we're just going to dive right in. We can edit that out. So we're going to stay live for a minute, and let's take some questions. Are you okay, Debbie, for a minute, or do you need to go? Yep. We got all the time in the world.
Yes, I do.
Let's pull up questions from the comments.
Coming in live, coming in hot.
And any other things that might, and we'll just stay on for a minute, and I'm good to hang tight here. And everybody else.
I'll say a common question that I get is, where do I start? Like, if I really want to practice forgiveness, where do I start? And what my suggestion would be is to start with that practice of acceptance, of just really going through your day and observing, like, am I accepting this? Now, again, remember, you don't have to like it. You don't have to participate in it. You don't have to condone it. Like, you know, Alex, I know, does not like Ryan's shirt, for example, but that doesn't mean that he can't accept it. And the funny thing is that it can be subtle. So I remember there was a time that I broke up with someone, and he loved grapefruit soap. And I saw soap somewhere, And I just felt so much hurt from this stupid little thing, but it wasn't stupid because the littlest stuff, the littlest things, when you pay attention, can be a big deal. So I slowed down after that and said, how can I practice acceptance here? That there's some upset going on. How can I just be with myself? So that's one of the common things that I get. Or if you're not accepting someone else, it's like, just start with acceptance. And if you're not willing to accept, I accept that I'm not willing to accept this. That just doing that. Rumi has a great, he's another great poet. Some of you may be familiar with him. And he's got a great quote. And it's, the moment you accept what troubles you've been given, the door will open. You may have an insight that really blows your mind. I had one client that I was working with. He just went through a divorce, and that marriage for him had defined his life. Like, he was like, what do I do now? Like, what do I do now? And he was like, I need to start working. He had taken care of the kids, and he was like, he didn't want to start getting into it. And we just slowed down with the practice of acceptance. And when we did that, including what he's not willing to accept, when he did that, he's like, God, like, I realize that I have other choices available to me. Like, I can do this career or not do this career. I can, I have space. And that was just from one little bit of acceptance. It's like it gave him this insight that he had a choice in a situation where he felt there were no more choices, and he was waking up not knowing where to turn and really discouraged. And I've been there. I hear you, Natalie, and I've been there. I mean, I've been at the bottom of the barrel, everybody.
Yeah, there's stuff you haven't shared inside of this that has happened that people don't know about. I know about, but there's a lot more to your story that people might not be aware of. You don't have to share it if you want to. If you feel like it would fit, you can. I felt like with what you shared with your dad, that was along those lines, and there's more. And so when you talk about being at the bottom of the barrel, I know firsthand you've been at the bottom of the barrel more than I've even been. Like, I'm not even close to the bottom.
Well, see, the thing, so my mom was murdered. That's what Nick is referring to. Working through that was a walk into an experience of compassion that's beyond anything that I've known in this life. And there are times, and I'm still working through it. And I'll tell you, it starts with a willingness. Like, I just say, like, I don't know how. Show me heart. With things like abuse and murder and all of that, it can be so easy to blame. And it's saying, I want to move beyond that. Like, let me take my hand, like love, forgiveness, take my hand and show me another way. So I'll tell you something, is that when I really let go of the judgment against Jamie, who's the person who killed my mom, it was my key to surrender into love. That was like the root of like all my eating disorders, all of that. It's like out of control. I don't want to feel hurt. I don't want to feel upset. And it's like, who would you be without that story? That one thing you don't want to let go of, that murderer is wrong. That would be one of mine. It's like that one thing you don't want to let go of. Letting go of that will be your biggest gift. I love you too, Jen. And see, I say that as an encouragement for each of you to look in your hearts, because life is short. And to say, what is that thing that I'm holding on to for dear life? And what if I just were willing to choose a different way? To let love show me that I can live from an expanded place. I don't know my dad ever got there. What he did do is give me an incredible gift to help me get there, because I never thought that I could let go of that judgment. And we ended on good terms. So don't let your life go. My encouragement is, it's my invitation to start looking at those things and take the very next step. Use one key that you got today and start working it.
That just wow, that just hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
What is that one thing you need to let go of? All men leave. Because if I tell myself all men leave, then that means I wasn't unlovable when my dad left.
That's right. Write that down now that you have that.
I want to highlight this because people often think, I don't know what they think. Let me just say it that way, but they're saying things that they don't know anything about, right? And we're all in here doing the work. Like Debbie, you're sharing this because you're doing the work around this thing that you're sharing about. And each of us, Melissa and Ryan and Nicole and myself, we're in here doing the same work that every person watching this show is doing. And the beauty of it, I coached with Townsend Wardlaw. I don't know if you've met with him or worked with him. He's a beautiful human.
He told me about him, though.
And he talks about pulling weeds, and he's like, you get to the point where you really enjoy looking for the weeds and pulling them, because you start to realize that those are your greatest opportunities for growth. And the beauty of all of this is once you start getting really good at noticing where you feel small, you start looking for places where you can feel small so that you can turn those into giant areas, and that's our whole message is we want you to find all of the places that you feel small and expand them. Like, turn them into strengths.
You're reminding me of the quote that the quote that I'm using as a theme for this group. The power and grace of self-forgiveness speaks exactly to what you're talking about. And it's your job is not to seek for love. It is simply to identify all of the barriers against it and dissolve them. That's Rumi. That's the work we'll be doing, and that's the work that each of us is doing. It's like, what a beautiful way to tend to your garden.
I love it.
That's right.
That was cute, Natalie.
That's right. Natalie, email me for that handout, because that worksheet will serve you if you're wanting to live into those new beliefs. It's like it's step by step, moment by moment. And it's like asking yourself, that's the other thing. It's like asking yourself really good questions. Did you notice that we did that a lot?
Oh,
today?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're powerful.
Yeah, and just one powerful question can unearth a totally new awareness for you that you can then run with. Now, see, Melissa, the fact that like you looked at the stuff that was going on underneath the introvert might have gotten you to this place of like, wow, all men leave. See, it's all interrelated.
Yeah, and I actually came to that in a journaling exercise before I even, like, a couple weeks ago. I sat a course with Doug McGee. and journaled on the lunch hour from the course, and it all kind of came out together, how the introvert, the needing approval of others, and all of that all started right in that spot where my dad left, and that's where the introvert story started, and needing approval of others. It was all intertwined, and it just all flowed out of me, and I can see exactly where I put that label back in place every time, from the time I was like 10 years old, right? I could see it every single time. Yeah.
Really amazing. And one other thing, there's like so many one other things, or after show, is my encouragement is to walk away inspired and with a beginner's mindset, with like, oh my goodness, I'm going to fix everything tomorrow. It's like that's not really how it occurs, right? Like there's like I have this one thing I give clients. It's like what you think success is, which is a straight line, and then what success really is, and then there's all of these arrows going like this and then up. And so it's like just to recognize that you might have this great key from tonight, and then tomorrow you step back into this old story, and you might think you're taking a step down, but you're really not. You're just in your next step in your journey. And the key is like that awareness, acceptance, taking ownership, and on into forgiveness.
You know what I'm noticing in all this is we have so many comments and interactions coming through. We are going to have a tech person to handle the back end of this. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say that anybody is welcome to email me, and I'm happy to like just even set up a call and answer some of your questions. And like it would be, I mean, Nick knows, like it would be my true privilege.
I know that.
Beyond what I can express.
And it would be life-changing. I just had a call with Debbie just to prepare for this show tonight, and it was incredibly life-changing.
And see, it's because of the way each of you shows up. That's the thing. It's like you show up with so much of an open heart. And I've heard it said, it's like that some keys to help in this work is intention, openness, and willingness. And that's what I see in each of you in spades. Including Ryan with his shirt that he's getting a lot of flack for tonight.
It's the shirtlessness that we're worried about.
It was because I showed up to an episode before the episode started, because Alex and Laban Ditchburn both showed up to a meeting with no shirt on. We were all jealous,
Alex
they showed up with no shirt.
Alex took his off during the meeting.
He did it in support, in solidarity for Laban.
Those are the kind of meetings we're a part of.
Yeah. And then I showed up to one, and he had his shirt on. I was like, hey, what the heck? Like, I thought this was the thing. Anyway.
Ryan was prepared. He was there shirtless. It was Alex
That's how I roll. Nobody wanted to see it, so we didn't post it on the internet.
Right?
My encouragement.
I guess nobody.
My encouragement is to roll with a commitment to forgive moment by moment throughout this year.
I love it. Man, that would change the world.
It would.
Absolutely. I am literally going to go back through this entire episode and take notes. I'm not just saying that. I'm going to sit down with this entire episode and take notes, and I'm going to start a forgiveness journal. And actually, I have an alarm that goes off on my phone at 11 o'clock and 3 o'clock every day to check in with my feelings, but I've never accepted them where they were at. My practice was always to check in with the 3 feelings that I want to be feeling. And if I'm not feeling them, can I sit with why, and can I feel into those feelings? But I've never actually sat with it to accept where I was feeling with it. So I really like that twist to it.
That will be a beautiful practice for you. A beautiful practice for you. And then what you might end with is, I am with me.
I love that.
Or in your own words.
I love that. And as I actually do that work with my kids, the 3:00 alarm is usually with my kids. So I will bring that to them as well.
Really amazing.
Thank you.
And bless your kids.
Thank you.
We do need to have a giant retreat.
I would love to speak
Oh.
at a giant retreat. That would be so.
Let's not
Abracadabra.
speak it. Let's speak it as though. Do you guys remember when we did the Giants retreat?
Oh
Do you
my!
remember
Life-changing event
That
with Debbie Roth.
was
Alex was
phenomenal.
there. Nikki, you coming? She took notes, so she must be.
It was a full room.
Yeah.
We almost had to open up more space because there's so many
Heather
people
and
there.
Natalie and Hugh and
This is how we
Jen
speak
and
things
Nora.
into creation. Debbie
Mhm.
Roth is
Yeah.
as though they are, and that is. So
I'm
I
in.
love that.
I'm in.
Man. Man. Let's and so it is. So man.
This is no joke. The first person I hug when I walk into that big room is Debbie Roth. No joke.
But don't feel bad if I tackle Debbie out of the way.
There's going to be a giant, like, you know, those big piles where
Yeah.
doggy pile. That'll be how it'll go.
I'm a gentleman, but I will steal a hug.
Debbie's on bottom. We just got this big stack.
Dog pile.
Yeah.
Giant dog pile. We're creating it.
Okay, one other thing, and maybe we'll end with this.
Maybe
because I thought of then puppy pile, and then I thought of is one of the keys. Remember we talked about with forgiveness is that to slow down and say, what can I do to center in my heart right now? And with, like, for Nick, it was like letting go of the distractions, right? And so you want to start paying attention to, like, what opens me to my heart. And the reason I said that is because for some of my clients, it's about thinking of like a pet or a kid or like someone that they love a lot, and that opens their heart. So you could even do a little journal and say, like, what opens my heart? What opens my heart? And just start taking notes. And then when you're practicing forgiveness, take a pause first before you do the I forgive myself for judging, and you choose one. And then you say, okay, that's what I'm gonna bring to my awareness right now. And when you experience your heart opening, you practice the forgiveness, even if it's just a little, and keep practicing even if you don't experience that. It's just one key to, like, help you get in a way. Help you get in. And there was I for a long time when I was first starting this work, I'm like, I really want to experience compassion. And I don't know how. Like, I was just stuck, and like, I don't know how. Like, I don't even know what it means. So I carried around this little notebook. I didn't use my phone. I mean, like, it was something about, like, the physical writing is this little tiny notebook. And I wrote down moments of compassion. And I didn't even know why I was experiencing compassion, except I knew that I was. And then I created this poster, and I looked through my journal, and I took common themes, like playing with my puppy, when I forgave somebody, when I said I was sorry, when I meditated, and I put them on sticky notes, little heart stickies, and I put them all over this wall, this poster, and I called it my compassion wall. And it started to help me have an experience of direct compassion. And the compassion, what it actually means is to be with suffering. And that was a seed for all of this. Just getting curious and being my own scientist.
So see, science. Nick just got really excited.
What'd you say?
You said being a scientist.
You know what I need is a white jacket, like
a white lab coat.
A lab coat.
I'm gonna make you one.
Totally, the forgiveness or the wake up with giants lab coat.
Yeah.
And forgiveness, it's like your forgiveness journal is like one of the things in your pocket.
I love that.
I like that. And then also the idea, have you seen the ugly sweaters where it's a shirtless dude and he's all hairy and tattoos everywhere, like
That's how it
the no shirt gang?
I won the ugly t-shirt contest by wearing one of those.
Did you?
Yeah, one of those
I
sweatshirts.
love it.
That
That's funny.
hairy, shirtless, tattooed guy.
Man, I know that we are just touching a drop of what Debbie knows, and I know we could go for hours on all of this. So let's do another show.
What are you doing tomorrow? Just kidding. we can do one later tonight. What do we got?
Yeah,
It's still early.
I need to go do my thing and disconnect for a minute. But I love you guys. Thank you. And those that are watching, I see these comments come through, and I truly have love for everybody that's in our group and beyond. And so just want to speak that. So thank you.
And just keep going. Just keep going. It's like if you fall.
And one more thing. Did you see Alex right there?
Her
and
one more things are the best.
I know.
Right? Like, her one more things are the best.
I used to be the chief of staff for a New York State Assembly member, and so he said I would always text him and say two things. So now I've got it down to
you
one.
should have a book that's like one more thing, but then it just and then at the end of every chapter it says and one more thing.
One more thing. I love it.
Just keeps going.
Until
That's an incredible book title. Yeah, I love it.
The very end, all there is.
I'll buy that book. You created. I'll buy that book.
Awesome! I love that.
In fact, I'll order 20 copies of that book.
One more thing on forgiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you were going to go again. My heart started going like, we're doing it.
Creating that, Jesus.
Well, I think, as a creation and as a vision here, just to speak this and declare it, a giant retreat is occurring. And so we will need some support around that.
Yeah.
And so I know there are some people in this group that are phenomenal. And if you want to be a part of that creation, reach out to us and let's put that together. I think we need to do that sooner than later. I don't think it's that far out of reach.
Well, for those that are, that in the moment, we've got the Ultimate Experience coming up January 23rd in Phoenix, Arizona. So that is going to be legit. There'll be a bunch of us there too. So it's going to be a precursor. We can even brainstorm even more and get to know each other and create.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
Forgive each other for not wearing shirts and pants and all things.
And all the things we do.
Yeah, for doggy pile hugging Debbie Roth.
That's right.
I'm sorry about your black eye. And
sorry about that. That was a funny moment. I feel bad, but it was
forgive
funny.
Me. I forgive myself for black eyeing you. Well, good, guys. Thanks a lot. For those that are watching, man, we really didn't even have a drop off here on viewership. So thank you for watching and being with us tonight. We will have more of this. So if you haven't followed Wake Up with Giants TV on YouTube, you got to go subscribe, because not only this and our show, but we've added 9 other shows that are going to be putting content in there. Plus we're going to be adding more to that. So the Giants Network is born and it's created already. So make sure that you're on YouTube, because there's going to be content upon content that just gets fed into that to serve you in this community. And so make sure you're a part of that, and tell your friends. I think that's important. Your family members. With that, and one more thing. That's it, guys. Make it a giant night. Thank you for being a part of this, and we will see you in the next episode.
Love you.
Good night.